The concussion of plastic explosives shatters the early morning quiet of Rue Bonaparte, sending a violent shower of glass and pulverized plaster raining across your books. It is January 1962, and this is the second time right-wing paramilitaries have bombed your Paris apartment. The OAS wants you dead. You are Jean-Paul Sartre, and your fierce, unrelenting denunciations of French colonial rule in Algeria have transformed you into a prime target for assassination. For you, philosophy is not a safe ivory tower game of abstractions. It is a literal life-or-death battle played out in the streets. Every word you publish is a weapon forged in the fires of real-world conflict, demanding that humanity seize its ultimate freedom. You carry the agonizing burden and absolute necessity of forging your own meaning in a world entirely devoid of inherent purpose. True intellectual conviction demands accepting mortal danger as the inevitable price of speaking out. Long before you dodge paramilitary explosives, you wage a quieter, far more intimate war against your own reflection. Growing up in a bourgeois Parisian household completely devoid of a patriarchal authority figure, you feel entirely unnecessary. You are haunted by a crushing sense of contingency, convinced you are a cosmic imposter with no inherent reason to exist. This deep psychological pain is compounded by profound physical insecurity. Peers mock your wandering right eye, forcing you to seek refuge in the near-religious act of reading and writing. You wield the pen desperately, attempting to justify your own existence on the blank page. In 1929, at the age of 24, you meet Simone de Beauvoir while preparing for the grueling agrégation exams at the École Normale Supérieure. She matches your intense intellect flawlessly. Together, you forge a lifelong pact, establishing your love as essential while allowing contingent romantic affairs with others. Radical intellectual and romantic partnerships often serve as a vital refuge from profound, lifelong feelings of inadequacy. She becomes your ultimate ally in the solitary, agonizing task of constructing a self. Your search for a philosophy grounded in gritty reality finds its spark in the smoky, crowded haze of the Bec de Gaz bar. Sitting over drinks in the early 1930s, your friend Raymond Aron points a finger at your apricot cocktail and declares that you can make philosophy out of that very glass. You turn pale with sheer excitement. The everyday, tangible objects of the world, not distant metaphysical concepts, hold the key to understanding human consciousness. But your intellectual awakening crashes abruptly into the violent gears of global conflict. By 1939, you are drafted as a meteorologist for the French army. When France falls the following year, the German military captures you, packing you into a freezing transport train bound for Stalag 12D in Trier. You are stripped of all physical liberty, reduced to a captive number, shivering behind barbed wire. Yet absolute physical confinement paradoxically reveals the invincible nature of human inner freedom. Imprisonment strips away the comfortable distractions of peacetime, forcing you to confront the absolute, unbreakable core of your own consciousness. Inside the bleak, heavily guarded walls of the prisoner of war camp, you recognize that defiance must take a subtle, disguised form. For Christmas 1940, you write and act in an original nativity play titled Bariona. You use the ancient Christ story as a theatrical Trojan horse. Beneath the familiar religious trappings, you weave a profound message of anti-authoritarian resistance, preaching directly to the captive prisoners, while the armed German guards watch, entirely oblivious to the subversion playing out before them. You stand on that makeshift wooden stage, embodying the unyielding will to resist the occupying force. Even under the dark shadow of the swastika, a man retains the sovereign capacity to say no. It is a striking irony that the definitive atheist of the 20th century finds his voice of ultimate resistance by directing a nativity play for Nazi captors. Released in 1941 on a medical technicality related to your wandering eye, you return to the grim reality of occupied Paris. You immediately attempt to form the short-lived resistance group, Socialism et Liberté. The political effort falters under the weight of fear and public apathy, so you channel your ferocious defiance back into the written word. Huddling near the cast-iron stove in the Café de Flore during the freezing winters of the occupation, you write furiously with stiff fingers. You rely on the establishment's meager coal rations for basic warmth while pouring your wartime trauma into a monumental philosophical framework. Following the liberation of Paris, you step up to a podium in October 1945 to deliver the Existentialism is a Humanism lecture. The hall is completely mobbed. People faint in the crushing crowd, desperate to hear your vision for a new, liberated humanity. In one single evening, you launch the influential journal Les Temps Modernes and transition from an isolated, captive thinker into a global superstar. The name Sartre becomes synonymous with post-war intellectual rebellion. Yet transforming personal suffering into universal dogma carries a heavy price. The public now crowns you as a definitive cultural authority, placing an immense, crushing weight upon your shoulders. To sustain this massive literary output and meet the ravenous demands of your newfound fame, you push your biology to the absolute breaking point. You consume massive quantities of coridrain, a potent, legal French mix of amphetamines and aspirin. You wash the pills down with strong black tea, chaining your way through 2 daily packs of harsh, unfiltered Boyard cigarettes. Your mind operates at a frantic, manic pace, matching the escalating tensions of the era. The Cold War is tearing French intellectual life apart, and you demand absolute ideological purity from yourself and your peers, defending Marxist principles against all criticism. This rigidity culminates in 1952 with a permanent, highly public rift with your close friend Albert Camus. Following a brutal review of Camus' book The Rebel, in your journal, you sever the friendship entirely over his refusal to excuse Soviet authoritarianism. Demanding absolute ideological perfection inevitably extracts the sacrifice of your deepest friendships and your own physical health. It is a bitter testament to the era that the champions of human solidarity so often destroyed the very bonds of brotherhood they claim to protect. By 1964, your global influence is so vast that the Swedish Academy awards you the Nobel Prize in Literature. You completely refuse it. Remembering the paramilitary explosives that shattered your apartment walls, you know that institutional validation is a dangerous trap meant to domesticate radical voices. To remain a true revolutionary, you must violently reject the very crowns that attempt to validate and tame you. When the streets of Paris erupt in the May 1968 uprisings, you do not issue safe, measured statements from a quiet desk. You climb atop oil barrels amid the choking tear gas and hurled cobblestones, speaking directly to the radicalized students fighting the riot police. 2 years later, at the age of 65, you take your defiance even further. You stand on busy Parisian street corners, handing out La Cause du Peuple, a banned Maoist newspaper. You explicitly dare the police to arrest you, challenging the state to make a martyr of its most famous philosopher. The authorities blink, refusing to lock up their uncrowned king, proving the sheer undeniable power of your cultural presence. But the relentless abuse of your own body eventually exacts an unforgiving toll. In 1973, a series of severe strokes destroys your vascular system, leaving you almost entirely blind. This biological failure is utterly devastating, not merely as a loss of physical independence, but as a profound existential catastrophe. Blindness strips you of the ability to write. You are forced to dictate your final thoughts to younger associates, relying on their hands to transcribe your voice. The desperate, lifelong tool you used to justify your very existence has been permanently stolen by failing health. you must confront the agonizing burden and absolute necessity of forging meaning in a world entirely devoid of inherent purpose, now trapped in the dark. On April 15, 1980, your weakened lungs finally succumb to pulmonary edema. Yet as your physical form fails, the nation responds with a staggering display of reverence. Over 50,000 Parisians pour onto the Boulevard du Montparnasse, a massive, unprecedented funeral procession flooding the streets to honor the man who taught them they were condemned to be free. When the physical means to justify one's existence are stolen by age, one's legacy is ultimately decided by the masses left behind.